92, Carol Burnett has reached an age few entertainers ever do, not just in years, but in perspective. When she speaks now, there is no performance left to protect, no image to maintain, no audience to impress. And that is exactly why what she finally admits feels so powerful. For decades, audiences suspected there was more beneath the laughter, more behind the big smile, the pratfalls, the curtain ear tug, and the unstoppable humor, and they were right. What Carol Burnett has openly acknowledged in her later years is not a shocking secret or scandal, but something far more human and far more moving. That comedy was never just her gift, it was her survival. From the outside, Carol Burnett's life looked like a miracle, a girl raised in poverty, surrounded by alcoholism, emotional instability, and uncertainty, somehow climbed her way into the living rooms of millions. She didn't just become famous, she became beloved. Week after week, people welcomed her into their homes as if she were family. She made America laugh during some of its most turbulent decades. And yet, as Carol has now admitted, the applause often covered a quiet loneliness, a lifelong fear of losing everything, and a deep sense of responsibility that weighed heavier with each passing year. Carol Burnett has spoken candidly about her childhood in recent interviews and memoirs, and what she admits now confirms what many long suspected. She grew up not feeling safe, not feeling secure, and not feeling certain that tomorrow would be okay. Her parents struggled with alcoholism, and as a child, Carol learned very early how to read moods, how to lighten a room, how to diffuse tension with humor. Long before she ever stepped onto a stage, she understood that laughter could change the temperature of a moment. It could stop arguments. It could make pain pause. That instinct never left her. When people watched Carol Burnett perform, they saw joy, freedom, silliness, and confidence. What they didn't see was the hyper-awareness beneath it. She has admitted that even at the height of her success, she was always waiting for the other shoe to drop. The fear of failure never disappeared. The fear of being abandoned never disappeared. The fear of suddenly losing the love of the audience never disappeared. And that fear, she now says, drove her work ethic just as much as her talent did. For years, Carol avoided framing her story as one of pain. She didn't want to be pitied. She didn't want her humor reinterpreted as sadness. But with age came honesty, and with honesty came peace. She has acknowledged that many of her most fearless performances came from a place of vulnerability she never felt safe enough to name at the time. Comedy, for her, wasn't an escape from pain, it was a way to live alongside it. What audiences also suspected, and what Carol Burnett has now openly reflected on, is how exhausting it was to be on all the time, to be the person people expected to lift them up, to be the reliable source of joy. She has admitted that there were moments when she felt she couldn't afford to fall apart because too many people depended on her smile. Fame did not erase that pressure, it amplified it. The more beloved she became, the more responsibility she felt to never disappoint. Behind the scenes of her legendary show, Carol was not just a performer, she was a leader, a protector, and often a caretaker. She has spoken about how deeply she cared for her cast and crew, how she felt personally responsible for creating a safe, joyful environment. That sense of responsibility mirrors the role she learned as a child, keeping things together, keeping people okay, keeping chaos at bay. The stage changed, but the role didn't. At 92, Carol Burnett has also spoken more openly about grief than ever before. Losing her daughter, Carrie Hamilton, was a pain no amount of humor could soften. For years, audiences sensed a shift in Carol, a deeper quiet in her presence, a gravity beneath the warmth. She has now admitted that grief rewired her completely. It taught her that strength doesn't mean being cheerful, it means being honest. It means showing up even when laughter feels far away. She has reflected on how the public often struggles to accept sadness from people they associate with joy. When Carol Burnett admitted she was broken after her daughter's death, many fans were surprised, not because grief was unexpected, but because they had unconsciously placed her above it. Carol has said she learned then how unfair that expectation was, and how deeply human she truly is. Comedy didn't make her immune to pain. If anything, it made her more sensitive to it. Another truth Carol Burnett has acknowledged late in life is how much she doubted herself, even while breaking barriers. She was a woman leading a variety show at a time when that was considered risky, even foolish. She was told repeatedly that audiences wouldn't follow a woman's humor week after week. She was warned not to trust her instincts, and yet she trusted them anyway, often while privately wondering if she was making a terrible mistake. At 92, she can now admit that courage doesn't feel brave in the moment. It feels terrifying. It feels like walking forward without knowing if anyone will follow. Carol Burnett has said that many of her biggest career decisions were made while she was scared out of her mind. The fear of failure never disappeared. The fear of being abandoned never disappeared. The fear of suddenly losing the love of the audience never disappeared. And that fear, she now says, drove her work ethic just as much as her talent did. In recent years, Carol Burnett has spoken with striking clarity about aging. She has admitted that reaching her 90s brought relief rather than fear. Relief from proving herself, relief from expectations, relief from pretending she had everything figured out. She no longer feels the need to be endlessly entertaining. She feels permission to simply be present. And that, she says, is the greatest freedom she has ever known. What everyone suspected all along is now something Carol herself embraces, that the laughter was layered, complex, and deeply human, that the woman who made millions laugh was also quietly learning how to survive, how to love, and how to forgive herself. At 92, she no longer separates the comedian from the woman. She sees them as one and the same. She has admitted that if she could speak to her younger self, she wouldn't tell her to be braver or stronger. She would tell her to be gentler, to rest, to accept help, to understand that worth is not earned through applause. That realization didn't come early, but it came honestly. Carol Burnett's legacy is not just a catalog of iconic sketches or unforgettable performances. It is the quiet permission she gives people to feel deeply while still choosing joy. At 92, her admission isn't a confession, it's a completion, a full circle moment where the audience finally sees the whole woman, not just the smile. And maybe that's why her story resonates more now than ever, because in admitting what everyone suspected, that laughter and pain often live side by side, Carol Burnett reminds us that joy doesn't mean the absence of struggle, it means choosing to keep going anyway. If this story teaches anything, it's that the brightest lights are often powered by the deepest understanding of darkness, and at 92, Carol Burnett doesn't hide that truth anymore. She honors it.